All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the DubCast podcast. We are welcoming back on the man, the myth, the legend, Kenny. Kenny, how we doing, brother?
What's up, man? Very, very excited. This tournament has a soft spot in my heart, and we were talking before you hit the record button here, just whether or not it's my favorite major, and I think that it is. It almost feels like un-American. It feels wrong to put this over the Masters. I mean, they're 1A, 1B, but I mean, dude, we're in Scotland. We're in the birthplace of golf. Just the history here. The British Open. I feel like I just have so many memories of like waking up in high school at like 4 in the morning and watching the early guys like play at St. Andrews before I got to head to school. So I don't know. There's just something about this tournament, man. There's nothing like the Open.
I can't wait to dive in. I'm with you on that. There's nothing better than drinking a cup of Joe, waking up first thing in the morning to some good golf action. So um, let's talk about the course itself. Royal Troon is hosting the 152nd British Open. What do we got on the track?
So we are at Royal Troon in Troon, Scotland. It is a par 71. Last time we were here was 2016. It was won by Henrik Stenson. It's an interesting course. So it's like your classic like Scottish links style in that you go out for 9 holes and then you come back the other direction for 9 holes. It's not like a loop. And everybody tees off on one. They don't split the tees here, so everyone's going to be going off the first tee. And like most courses that you're going to see in the British Open rotation, I mean, weather is always just going to be the biggest defense and overall like the biggest factor going into the week. I mean, it's right on the water. More often than not, you're going to be downwind going out, and then you're going to be into the wind coming back. And the back already, it's going wind aside. It's the more difficult of the nines. And if it's playing into the wind like it typically does, I mean, this back nine is a bear. So if you're going to go out there and put up a good number, you got to do it on the front nine and then just hold on coming home.
Yeah, I'm looking at the weather conditions right now. Obviously, playing overseas, most notably in Scotland, that is one of the biggest factors. You got guys going off first thing in the morning, you got guys going off in the afternoon. The course can play like two completely different courses based off of weather conditions, tee times, etc. Do you have any insight into? I mean, I'm looking at it now. We got chances of rain, afternoon wind. How will this impact your handicapping, if at all?
So the issue with Scotland and really all the courses that you're going to see for the Open, you got to pay attention to the weather, but the weather can just change on a dime. I mean, if you've ever been over there, it's just in the span of 10 minutes, it could flip on its head. So you do have to keep that in mind, and don't let the report today guide all of your action. But it is important to at least have a sense of, at least for the first 2 days, how the waves are going to shake out. So the way that I'm currently looking at it is I think Thursday, there's not that much of a difference between the morning guys and the afternoon guys. The afternoon guys probably see a little bit more wind, but it's not going to be too drastic. Friday, it looks a little different. I think Friday morning is going to be pretty fair, like some low winds, like early in the morning. If you're one of the first guys off Friday morning, I think you definitely have a bit of an advantage because then Friday afternoon, it gets nuts. So I look at it like, I think as of right now, there's a slight edge for guys going off in the afternoon on Thursday and then getting the morning wave on Friday. And just historically with the British Open, like there's the average gap in scoring between the waves. I think it's like 1.4 strokes, which is well above average. I think your average tournament, it's usually about 0.8. So the weather will certainly play a factor here. So it's not like I'm completely crossing off guys that are playing in the morning on Thursday, but if you got a list of 3 guys that you're completely torn on, whether you're going to bet them outright, a finishing position, you're doing one of those pools where you got to pick a guy in each tier. If you need a tiebreaker, I do think there's a slight edge to guys that are playing Thursday afternoon. So I think that's definitely something to keep in mind.
Amazing. Before diving into what qualities it takes as a golfer to have success here, I want to dive into my favorite segment every time I chat with you, the Caddy's Corner, boots on the ground. You do a ton of prep work, listening to interviews, reading articles about what people are feeling, seeing, who are actually there, boots on the ground. Do you have any intel for us there?
So from the caddies, I haven't heard back. I hit up my 2 friends. I haven't heard anything back yet. But like based on everything that I've read, it's just weird. Like there's not like a completely particular set of skills that like I'm overly prioritizing this week. Like I do think this is more of a kind of like a gut week more than anything else, at least from like a player profile. Obviously, you want guys trending in the right direction. Success on links golf certainly is a plus. Guys that have the ability to get sort of creative with their shot shapes and hit low balls to be able to sort of cut through the wind. But for the most part, man, I'm kind of just letting the numbers dictate sort of where I go here. I'm just looking for good prices. I think that there's, and at first it almost sounds like weird to say this because they're two such drastically different golf courses. But I'm kind of approaching this in a similar way that I did for Pinehurst, in that I think the level of variance that you're going to see on the course, like across all the golfers, is going to be through the roof. Now, again, they're two drastically different courses, but again, you go back to when Keimer won the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. He dusted everybody by like 10 strokes, and then it was everybody else. The last time we were at Royal Troon in 2016, I mean the leaderboard was insane. I think Stenson was 19 under, Phil was 17 under, and then third place was like 6 under. Like the two of them just completely dismantled the course, and everybody else struggled. Now they had the luxury of being in like the correct wave. There was like a really small window, I think, that on either Thursday or Friday that they were a part of, where they were able to just like rip up the course. But long story short, there is that there's going to be a lot of luck and randomness that sort of comes into play here, based on the weather, based off if you happen to find one of the billion awful, debilitating pot bunkers that are carpet bombed throughout the course. If you happen to pull it into the high stuff, into the gorse, you're kind of guessing what kind of a lie you're going to get. So all that to say, I think a lot of luck is going to be involved. And when that's the case, I think that's most penal to just the best natural players. I mean, we talked about Scotty going into the U.S. Open, and I wasn't by any stretch like fading Scotty. I just couldn't get behind him at such a short number when I feel like a lot of the things that are going to happen are almost out of his control. And I kind of have a similar vibe to this. Like Scotty at plus 450, I just think, one, he has to play like the best player in the world, which I think you can be fairly confident that he's going to. And he can't get unlucky. He can't run into a bad sort of stretch of holes with some high wind. So I do think this is a spot where you could see some long shots. Over the last 13 years, the average price for a British Open winner is like 7,700. That's drastically higher than the average winning price on any other major. And I think it's just because of the randomness of the weather and the overall style that's required on links golf. Like, you don't really have to be a bomber. If you hit a low bullet into these fairways, you're going to get all the run out. And then there's just so much more creativity around the greens that are required that I do think it opens the door for other guys outside of, the top 5 chalk.
Yeah, and this historic handicapping season that you're having thus far, variance has been your best friend. I mean, Taylor 200-1, Akshay 65-1. In those wins, sometimes that takes a little bit of luck and randomness and variance.
100%.
To cash those long shots. They don't call you the moonshot for no reason.
Hey man, look, you got to get lucky, and I think on a course like this, like you can't get unlucky. I've been watching. I'm a big poker guy, so I've been watching the live stream of like the World Series of Poker main event, final table, and like, yeah, all the guys that are still left are obviously world-class poker players. I'm sure they've gotten very, very lucky on their run to make it there, but it's twofold. You got to get lucky and hit hands, and you can't get incredibly unlucky and get sucked out. So I think that thought process, I think, kind of translates well here. I mean, you get one bad lie, you're dead.
I've been following along with that tournament a little bit as well, seeing Barstool Nate or whatever it may be. Let's dive into the board. Leading into the show, you mentioned that you have 3 potential spots targeted, one for folks who are looking to get a little chalky, kind of a middle tier, and then a long shot that you have been tracking. Feel free to give away whichever secrets you want to. We also have a free trial accompanying the release of this video, so folks will get access to the first 2 days of the tournament in the server regardless. But let's dive into those.
You still with me? I lost you there for a few seconds. Well,
yeah.
Edit these out. You go. No, right, yeah, you completely froze on my end for a good 15 seconds. Do you want to want to just re-say what you just said, so we've got like you're like, yeah, on my screen you're very blurry and you're kind of lagging a little bit.
Okay. It will say, it says in the top right corner of yours, actual recording quality is higher. So the quality of the video will be much higher. But let
All right,
me,
all good. So yeah, just re-tee that up.
awesome. So let's dive into the board. I know leading into the show, you mentioned that you have a couple spots that you've identified, one that's a little chalky, one that's middle tier, and one that's a long shot. You've been generous enough to accompany this video with short free trial. So folks who take advantage of that will get access. So feel free to give out whatever you want from the spots that you've identified thus far.
Yeah, so at the top of the board here, like if you want an outright bet for one of like the top 10 guys on the board, or if you're playing daily fantasy, or if you're in one of those pools, like feel like every major, it's the week to do golf pools where the whole field gets split into 6 tiers. You got to pick one from each. So I think this sort of applies to like any of those things. But my favorite chalk play on the board, under 20-1 for me would be Morikawa. I think Morikawa, he's down to 14-1. Now I'm sitting on a 25-1 ticket, so I guess it's a little easier for me to want to get behind it. But if you need a chalky guy at the top of the board, I think Morikawa would be my pick here. Number one, as scary as it sounds, like I'm kind of fading Scotty at plus 450. If he comes out here and dusts everybody, like so be it. But it's not like he's had the greatest amount of success on links golf. He hasn't played in a few weeks, and add in everything I already mentioned about sort of the randomness that accompanies British Opens. I think I can cross him off my list. Rory at 850, I can't back this guy after what we saw happen at the U.S. Open. It's hard to describe. Xander would be my next pick, but I like Morikawa a little more. He's got a British Open under his belt. He's coming in like arguably the best form of his career. And then beyond him, like Ludwig, I think 2 months ago would have been probably my like forward-looking pick for this event, but his driver has been really leaky as of late. I didn't love what I heard from him in his interview, that he's battling this left miss with his driver that's been a bit of a problem as of late. And then Bryson, I think at some point, like the magic has to wear off a little bit. I'm not fading him. Again, he has the chance to, I think, if he top tens here, he would have top 10 in all 4 majors this year and would have really capped off one of the best major seasons in recent memory. But Morikawa at the top of the board is my guy.
I love that. Major pedigree, former winner of the Open, elite ball striker. Another quality that I think is probably highly valued at this track in particular is creativity around the greens. And he's shown the ability to pull out the hybrid, a couple paces off the green, get creative.
Yeah, the reason I think around the green especially is going to really come into play at this course is like typically for British Opens, these link style courses, there's these unbelievably massive greens. Now there's a lot of undulation, but like if you think of St. Andrews, I mean some of the greens are actually like they're like I think it's like the 7th green. It's enormous, and it's the 7th green and like the 11th green. They've got 2 flag sticks on the same green. They're like 100 yards apart. That is not the case here. It's probably actually I'd want to check this here, but I would imagine that Royal Troon amongst all the courses in the British Open rotation probably have this smallest greens. So it does have like a little bit of like a US Open feel to it. So you're not going to hit all your greens in regulation. You're going to have to get up and down. And then you factor in, the wind element and, things like that. And I do think around the green creativity is going to be crucial here.
Fantastic. Well, hey, we got Morikawa 14-1 locked in. Anything else on your mind? Anybody that you have some excitement around?
I do. So this is the last guy that I added to my card. I threw him on this morning. And as I look at the board right now, I look at where everyone is currently priced today. I look at tee times. I think at his current number, I think this might be my favorite bet on the board, at least at, relative to what I believe to be the value on his number. I am donating money on Cameron Young, 70-1 to win the British Open. For starters, he is in the good wave. I think he tees off at like 3 p.m. He's playing with Scotty and I forget who the third in their group is. And he's had great British Open experience. Took 18th last year. He took 2nd in 2022 at St. Andrews. And I think that performance in particular, like people just forget about because, Cam Smith won and everyone remembers the insane up and down Cam Smith had on the 17th, the road hole. Everyone talks about how Rory couldn't make a putt and kind of, lamented on like the Rory, I don't even know if collapse is the right word, but that was probably the best chance that he was going to get at St. Andrews. And people forget that Cam Young finished second, shot like a 63 on Sunday, made a must-have like 30-foot eagle putt on 18 to give himself a chance, and then just Cam Smith was better. So he's got the British Open pedigree, and then coming into the year, he's had at least by his standards of what we've seen in his short career, he's had a bad year, and then has just found it in his last 2 tournaments. He took 9th at the Travelers, he took 6th at the Rocket Mortgage. He is gaining across the board in every category. So it's just a combination of good British Open experience, playing in the right wave. I like that he's in Scotty's group. It kind of gives him like almost like a pace setter to sort of go out there and compete with. And it's just a guy that he hasn't won on the PGA Tour yet. He's probably the most talented player on tour that hasn't won an event yet. And I still think when he wins his first one, he's going to pile them up. And it wouldn't surprise me to see it this week. So Cameron Young at 70-1. If you have one bullet in the chamber, I think that's probably where I'd be putting my money.
I love that. I can't believe he has not won on tour. His name gets thrown around there so often. He gets so much love from the media that you would think that he's a multi-time winner on tour, and he's so freaking talented. I'm also seeing him 13-1 for a top 5 finish, and then plus 600 for top 10. So there's some value out there, maybe to sprinkle across the board in case he falls a little bit short, but plays his ass off. So I am all for that with you. Any other action that myself, as a horrible lifetime golf handicapper, should be tailing one of the best in the absolute space on?
So I've got him in a 3-ball for now. I'm still figuring out exactly how I want to get my exposure on this guy, but my favorite guy just way down the board. I mean, if you want to put $1 on him to win it, by all means, if he's like 400-1, I'd be utterly shocked if he won this event, but I do think he's going to make the cut. He's going to compete. Matthew Jordan, young British great player. He took 10th at the Open last year. He took 26th at the Scottish Open last week. He's having a great year on the DP World Tour, and he's in the better wave. He goes off Thursday afternoon. So of just the total long shots way down the board, I do think in pretty much all the markets, I think he's a little undervalued. So you can get him for a top 40, including ties. I think on FanDuel at like plus 210. I think that's a good bet. And then I did take him in his 3-ball. I believe he's playing with Patty Harrington and Davis Thompson. Now, Patty Harrington is a legend. He's a British Open winner, but I would certainly take Matthew Jordan over him. And then Davis Thompson has been playing some phenomenal golf as of late, but does not have a ton of experience in links golf. And he's just a heavy favorite here, and I don't think that he should be. So Jordan in his 3-ball for round 1, I believe was like as high as plus 200, plus 195-ish. So I'll put the whole thing together. I did a 2-leg 3-ball parlay for round 1, just something to get the juices flowing on Thursday. And it was Matthew Jordan to win his group and Corey Connors to win his group. It came out at about 5-1.
That is awesome. I was just watching Golf Channel, and they were interviewing Jordan. Relatively local kid, said he's straight up, he's playing the best golf he's ever played in his life. He's got a ton of family in town. Those are the types of Cinderella stories that I feel like we see all the time at these events. And so I love that spot.
And again, you like seeing him come in with a 26 at the Scottish last week. Again, 10th at the Open last year. I mean, this dude's the real deal. He's peaking at the right time. And I think that in the 3-ball, I think Davis Thompson's getting way too much respect. And again, factor in the good weather wave, and we got a lot of things working for us here.
Absolutely. When I talk Cinderella story, it's not to win that 3-ball because I think he's going to kick ass there. It is the 20-1 top 10 finish that I'm eyeing down on the board right now.
I could see it. I certainly could.
Well, hey, Kenny, when I say that you truly are one of the best in the space, you really are. We got the free trial running. It'll be in the link in bio. One thing to sell folks on that free trial and to jump in the server for the long term is that Kenny's one of the most elite live bettors in the golf betting market. And so get in that server, make some new friends, and cast some live bets because I'm a member, and that is what I look for major in, major out, week in, week out, is those hole props, man. You identify those spots and just smash them. So
I think this is a good week for it too. I mean, with the weather going to be bouncing around as much as it is, we'll have a lot of data after the first round of how each hole is playing. And I haven't done anything yet, but like I'm looking at a lot of round one score unders that I think I might get a little weird with. I'm going to wait until later tonight. We have like a final picture for the weather, but right now I'm seeing like the over under for the winning score is set at about like 13 or 14 to 1. That's what sort of I think where most of the markets have settled here. And for round one scoring, you're getting the majority of the field, with the exception of like Scotty and Rory, to shoot even par at like plus money or better. And I think especially guys that are going off like early Thursday morning before the wind really starts to rip up, like I don't think like 3-4 under is like completely out of the question here. So I do think we're getting some soft round scores. So after I get the weather report finalized later tonight, I'm sure I'll be firing out a couple of those as well.
I'll be waiting for them, and so will your hundreds of subscribers. So thank you very much for the time, as always, Kenny. Sad that this is the last major of the year, but we'll have to cover some FedEx Cup action in a couple months.
Sounds good, brother. Always a pleasure, man. Good luck on all your action this week. Thanks again.